Maybe there we go. Sorry, y'all. Man, I swear it's been one of those days. Anyway, welcome down to WDiMT in Muletown. Can't believe this is our first stream of 2026. It's been a while. I think it said May the 20-something of last year was the last time that we did a stream. So pretty crazy there. It's been crazy. Believe me, y'all had a lot of stuff going on in my life. Y'all heard a little bit about it. Things have been crazy. Just glad to have survived it at this point. But we'll get right on into it. Don't have any current conditions for you because I actually don't have everything plugged up and set up right now. Let's see if my weather station's even broadcasting right now. We've had our internet down and it's telling y'all it's been a thing for sure. Definitely glad to have all that behind us. Hopefully I should have something more permanent done on the studio here soon. Nope, my weather station's offline. Just kidding. So we'll hop into the things. I don't have any of the stuff really for you. We're just going to go and do the screen share on the models and stuff like that. I didn't have time to get anything loaded in. I was just basically doing my best to be able to get this fired up when we got it. Had to do a late minute restart, audio issues, more audio issues, and it's just, I'm telling y'all, it's been a day. So appreciate y'all joining us. Always we get the like, shares, and subscribes and everything out of the way. All that fun stuff. Got to tickle the algorithm and do our part there. So it looks like, yep, Facebook's already got me to and blocked the video because of the national anthem. God, I love these people. I'll fight that later, but it messes with our viewability and our visibility and stuff like that until I do, and it's just, it irritates me. Because it's not copyrighted. It's never been copyrighted. It's a national anthem. Anyway, as you see, around the mid-state right now, not too much going on. That's going to change, obviously. See the radar picking up just a little bit of stuff up here, but nothing major going on at all. For our new folks, we do, when we're doing severe weather, obviously we have our roads and everything labeled here, and I hope you're watching on YouTube because you can see a lot better than on Facebook. Definitely make sure you're watching us in HD as much as you can on Facebook, because we'll go down and do street view level of our storms and stuff like that. You can see exactly where you live, all that fun stuff. We'll label streets, give you landmarks, all that fun stuff. So again, just what we do generally whenever we've got a warning of any kind, we're on it. We'll try to leave the feed up, even if it's just with the NOAA audio, which I should have here. Make sure that works real quick. I don't hear it. That's not good. Okay, try that again in a second. So basically, we try to cover all of the events and all the things. We're not meteorologists, just been doing this a really long time. I'm a storm junkie, always have been since I was like 8, 9 years old. So just been doing it a long time. Tornado chaser at heart, public servant by day trade. Most of the guys and gals here on the channel are as well, are retired or some shape, form, or something like that. So we're all here to help. As we talked about a little bit earlier, things get busy around here. We may not be able to answer all of the questions and stuff as soon as we want to, but we'll try to get to them as we can. Again, if you think you're in danger or something like that, just act on that. Do not wait on us. Because things do get busy. We try to get to all the comments under great circumstances, but here lately the circumstances haven't been so great. So let's see, we can swap over to radar scope and I'll show y'all kind of what is going on and what we're looking at, because I know folks have been looking at the radar all week going, what's going on? I think y'all are talking about this big gigantic storm and there's like nothing out there. I know. This storm has been forming itself basically out of the magic dust that forms storms, and that's part of the reason why we had such a issue with getting an exact bead on this thing and figuring out what was going on with it long term. We were waiting on a couple things to happen. Some of those things were running behind. Our upstream high pressure system kind of got stuck in Canada a little bit, and that's part of the reason why we're in this shape that we are, with all the ice versus snow and the timing and everything constantly moving around on us. So Let's pull up radar scope here. We'll hop over to that. This will be kind of a common theme that we'll be talking about. So our like blues and our pinks and our purples and things like that. It's down here on the scale. I actually need to turn off the ticker real quick. That's part of the problem. Let's turn this off real quick. Okay, there we go. So scale here on the bottom. You can see the kind of mix here in the middle. Rain, traditionally green to white up here, very bad, usually is hail. And then snow here on the blue. So a couple of different snow reports coming in here. You'll see some symbols like these, mesoscale discussions. We'll talk about those normally with severe weather, but they do pop up here and there. We'll throw this into motion real quick. This is not here, obviously. This is out towards Arkansas, Oklahoma area. And you can see kind of that back and forth changing around of the blue versus the mix versus the rain and the dark blues indicating the heavier snow and the light blues. All a method to that madness. We type this again, like I said, it's more on like a heat scale. I know that's kind of weird sounding when we're talking about snow, but the lighter the blues up here, heavier, or the lighter the snow, and then obviously heavier blues, heavier snow. Not exactly rocket science, but that is how all of that works. We'll be talking about different precip types as this goes along throughout this process, because we are likely to see many different types of mixed precip back and forth. If it's, raining at some point, but this weekend, don't want you all to like let your guard down, think it's over, or anything like that. It's probably just more coming. Because once this gets started really good, we expect it to continue on pretty much through the weekend and be pretty nasty overall if we end up getting this like level of ice that we're expecting. I've had a lot of folks, I think, kind of realizing that this may be a little bit of a thing here, and we're not trying to blow things out of proportion or scare anybody. I've had a lot of folks ask about 1994, and that's kind of what we're trying to tell y'all folks. This is one of those storms to where it's so big, so wide, it's gonna be something that they talk about 32 years from now, like we do with 1994. I'm not saying it'll be that bad, definitely don't get me wrong. So those are just the things that we try to point out or emphasize when they need emphasizing, and go from there. Again, all our issues and efforts and everything are to prepare, never to scare. It's not what we do, not what we have ever done, and won't ever as long as I'm captaining around here. So we'll hop right on into the stuff. Apologies again, didn't have a chance to load any of this into the stream. I may do it in a second. We try to get like all the good stuff in and out of the way, so that way y'all don't have to sit on here the whole entire time and listen to us talk about random things, because we usually devolve into random weather nerdery at some point. And if you need to go back and like rewatch it, review it, or whatever, because I'm trying to keep this not just terribly long, but I know we've got a lot of questions, got a lot of new folks. We've got like 2,000 or 1,200, 1,300 new people or something just in the last couple of days, I think, the last time I looked. So that's awesome. Y'all always knock it out of the park whenever we need y'all to spread the word and do things like that. So let's get on into it. Again, if you have questions, I'll try to get to them. We'll have our folks in the chat as well too that will help out with some of those things. I try to see them when it goes by, but when we've got 500 people on here, it goes by quick sometimes. So we'll start with our more shorter range models here. HRRR model, high resolution rapid refresh. It's one of my favorites. We can go on down into the local view here, so you can see timestamps will be right up here, and then model types, all that fun stuff, scales at the bottom. I'll try to make that a little bit easier for y'all to see. So temps, so that's one of the things we've had a lot of questions about. So if it's going to be freezing, how is it going to like freezing rain or do anything but like snow? So these are our temps as we roll through. So about 7 a.m 9 a.m there in the morning, 20 degrees, pretty brisk. We'll talk about the winds as well here in a minute too. And it's looking like maybe, oh no, there it comes. Yeah, it's going to be Sunday. So you see that kind of warm nose kind of creep up into, oops, into our area here. So you got it coming right around through Lewis County, Hickman County, and then kind of like another nose up going through there towards East Tennessee. That's going to expand out through that Sunday overnight, 5 a.m. So we're getting here to daylight, and that's what we were talking about yesterday, that Sunday early shift looks to be a rough time to be on the road. And then it's going to move back down about 10 a.m. So again, that's where we're going to have our problems. One of the last runs that I got to see of this model had a lot of us missing the extra rain that was coming in on the back end of stuff, and had us more in the mix. And I think that's where some of those higher totals are trying to come from as well too. So move that around. Yep, sorry, guys and gals, still working out kinks. So we'll look at our reflectivity types. This is going to be like a projected image of what it thinks the radar will look like. Columbia again here for reference there, sports fans. I really need to, we don't really need to ticker that bad, do we? Let me turn that off again. So it's just in the way. Okay. Yep, so reflectivity types, so this is imagining of what it looks like. So 5 a.m., see the snow, lighter snow there at first, starting to approach the area. Maybe a begin time of around 6 to 7 a.m. is what we're suggesting now. We've been thinking about that time frame would be right about between the daylight and noonish time frame. So moving through there, 8, 9, 10. We see maybe a little bit of mix trying to show up in the area, but some heavier snow falling there as well around Murray County around 9 a.m., 10 a.m., 11, 12. So there's noon. So we were thinking mix should start sometimes noon or thereafter, and that looks like that's holding pretty close to the time frame now there. So again, you see blue up here, snow. That purple starting to come in there is going to be sleet. So I'll pull up the graphic here in just a minute and explain some of this for my non-weather folks. When we have warm air intruding into this cold air mass like we have here, obviously warm air rises, cold air sinks. That cold air wants to rush back towards the ground, and these frozen hydrometeors, be it, sleet, snow, whatever, have enough time to melt just a little bit, but then they fall back through that cold air and freeze back into ice pellets in this purple stuff right here. Go forward a couple hours, we see that pink getting closer. So about 2 p.m., 3 p.m., 4 p.m., we're kind of getting into the freezing rain there. So you kind of see it trying to impinge into the area. That's where we have a little bit more shallow of a layer of cold air at the bottom, and our precipitation doesn't have enough time to refreeze all the way back into like something solid like snow or usually sleet in that case. And what it does is shortly thereafter it falls, it ends up freezing again because our temperatures are again getting close to that freezing point right here, even though our warm air is getting in the way. Rolling through 6 p.m. there, 7 p.m., some pretty heavy mix, and then we stay in this band. This is kind of what we were worried about. So when we've been looking at these big kind of like veins or swaths that we've been talking about, this is the result of that. So all this stuff is moving across us. We'll go back a little bit here, and you can see all this stuff is moving across us, and that's where that big vein is coming from. Because once we get into it, 9, 10, 11 o'clock, moving from the evening on Saturday, we're going to be in that like swath of that for a while. So we're going into 1 a.m. there, still maybe a little bit, maybe getting some broken mixed rain and freezing rain there. Yep, so first time I'm seeing this run of the model. So it did push this rain back up a little bit further into Middle Tennessee. Last run, it kind of had it right there at like the Murray, Lawrence, Giles line, and it was looking like we may miss some, and we still may, folks. I mean, this is, like I said, this is just a supercomputer and its opinion of what it thinks. So 4 a.m., 5 a.m., 6 a.m. So here comes that bad time to be on the road Sunday. Oops, this thing's really touchy. Sorry, y'all. 6 a.m. there, 7 a.m., 8 a.m. We may get some breaks in between here and there. And that's what I'm saying, folks. Don't let your guard down. It's probably just a little break, because then it comes back with a pretty good vengeance there. So those dark, pinky colors there, that's some pretty heavy freezing rain. See, kind of up here on the higher end of the scale there. Continuing on through about noon. This is noon Sunday. And then probably tapering off, maybe a little snow there on the back if any of this tries to fill back in. But that is the end of our 48-hour loop there about Sunday at 6 p.m. Also think that's when most of the watches and warnings roll through too. So that's that. For my curiosity real quick, let me have a look at the lightning and see if we get... Oh, yeah, there's a little bit. Oh, man, it's really light though. So, man, I really hope we get some thunder sleet. That would be so awesome. Yeah, I don't think it's going to be enough. Oh, well. Okay, so let's roll on down. And so you've heard us talk about like a lot of the 10 to 1 and this and that and the other. So I'll show you the total snowfall. It's probably going to give us a higher amount, so don't quote me on this. This is just, again, what it thinks will fall totally. Just everything that falls is snow, whether it sticks or not. It thinks that about 1.5 inches, maybe 1.75 inches, getting kind of closer into the 2s there in the northern part of Murray County, almost 3 up there near Fairview, but I think that's going to be pushing our luck. So snow depth is what I normally show y'all because it applies an algorithm to things to take out stuff like water. I'll read it here. Typically for land surface fluxes, a radiation balance, so it takes into like sunlight, how much may be evaporating, won't cover non-land surfaces like water. Basically, it tries the best its model to assume what the snow cover on the ground is going to be. So it's usually a little bit more conservative and about 1 inch. So kind of what we've been saying there. So 1 to 3, I would be pretty happy with that. That's probably going to be about all that we get. If something goes sideways and we saw 3+, I'd be kind of surprised at this point. I would love to be wrong, but that's just kind of what we're looking at. So sorry, snow fans. All right, so here comes the fun part. So total freezing rain. Again, this is where I'll show you the worst one, then we'll kind of go towards the more moderate one. Total freezing rain, kind of a similar thing. This is what it thinks it's going to fall total, not necessarily what it's going to accrue. So that's 6 p.m. Saturday there, about 1/4 inch projected. Moving on into that heavier vein, you kind of see it creeping in there from the southwest, getting a little bit over 1 inch. Again, this is the worst case scenario that we were talking about earlier. This is what I kind of try to bookend things with. And how we saw that separate split earlier kind of come off and push into like Cookeville, more towards East Tennessee with the colder air. I think that's kind of what's giving us like the snake tongue look here, where it's got 2 separate forks of really heavy ice accretion there. That's showing parts of southern Murray County maxing out at about 1.3 inches. Again, this is more of the worst case. The total ice, when y'all are seeing that, when I'm sharing them on the page, because I always try to leave this part in where you can see what model run it was and what product it is. This is what it's thinking is going to accrue. So this is a little bit more conservative in estimates. But as you see, we're still getting up there into that 3/4 inch, 8/10 of ice accretion there. Parts of Giles County maybe closer to 9/10, and then that heavier vein over here of the almost green color is the inch. It's keeping it a little bit further to our west. Most every model, and even most every like the categorical outlook products and stuff that we've been sharing, you have kind of this streak somewhere, either kind of like more over Murray County, a little bit to our west, and some of them, but less, have been trying to favor it to the east since that kind of heavier push has been showing up in the last couple of models. So roughly, just to give it some context, and I just saw that slide by in the chat, 94 was about, I couldn't find many records on it, but I found an NWS article in the archive that said most of Middle Tennessee experienced between about 1/2 and 3/4. So that's kind of tracking 94 there, y'all. So again, hope to be wrong. I would rather see 10 feet of snow than I would see this, because this will likely be not good. I've been asked a million times, either in person over the last couple days or in the DMs or all those other things, about if I had to put a percentage on things about power outages. And this is the thing, folks, with 1/4 inch in ice. Okay, we'll start even smaller. 1/10 of an inch. It makes everything look shiny. It's going to make roads kind of crappy for a while. You may fall down your steps, bust your butt. But that's going to be about it. Kind of annoying, but it's about as far as that goes. 1/4 inch up, you can kind of start to get some issues with trees, like falling on power lines, or the roads being bad enough for like folks to take them out with their bumper, things like that. But you don't have like a lot of widespread power outages with around 1/4, getting a little bit closer to 1/2. If we get like 1/2 or much over, that's where you start to get some pretty moderately spread out, some more widespread power outages. You have issues with the power lines themselves. I'm trying to remember these numbers off the top of my head. It was around, I think, like 700, 800 pounds between like a 1/4 inch and a 1/2 inch of ice, just between like a normal like block long sized, you know, A and B between 2 telephone poles worth of power lines. Once you get over that 1/2 inch up to like a 3/4 of an inch, you're talking, you know, 12, 14, 1500 pounds. And then anywhere much above that 3/4 to an inch, you can start getting into like small car territory. It's a lot of weight just hanging on the power lines there. So that's kind of where things come into problems there. So, and once you get much above that 50% to 3/4, you're going to have widespread power outages. It's not going to be just your neighbor or just, you know, your subdivision. It may be your whole side of the town. Infrastructure can start to have some issues with that then, and then pretty much anything over an inch, and I can just about guarantee you widespread power outages, and it's going to be off for a while at that point, possibly. Now, the linemen are going to get out and do everything that they can, but I mean, they may be in a point where they have to clear trees and things and do all of those things before they can even get to it. So, again, hoping I'm wrong about that. Still keep watching the models, still keep doing the updates. Again, we're not always looking for patterns or looking for results. We're just kind of looking for patterns like those big streaky veins or how far the air is pushing or things like that. So, we'll look at, that was HRRR. We'll look at the NAM here in a second, HD NAM. We can look at some of those same things. We'll go in and have a look at the projected radar. So this is what it thinks the radar will probably look like starting 7 p.m. Friday, so just a couple hours ago. And then NAM's got things moving in a little bit earlier. So it looks like between 4 and 5 a.m. for a possible start time. So maybe just a little bit before daylight. And maybe we get a little more snow there according to NAM. We'll throw out the caveat that NAM is historically kind of stinky at forecasting snow, but it's showing a similar story probably between 10 a.m. noon there. We start seeing that sleet. It's got a heavier sleet band here, I'm noticing in this run. And that sleet looks like it's going to continue on pretty much solid and very heavy there about 6 p.m. So, see, 4, 5, 6 p.m. right there, pretty heavy sleet falling on Saturday evening. So not as bad as the freezing rain, but on roadways, that sleet can pack really badly and kind of eventually become like a sheet of ice. In this scenario, when we've just got snow and sleet, that's probably going to pack a lot, and there's not going to be much degradation of it, you know, from like liquid rain falling at above freezing. It's the combination of all this is probably going to be what makes everything a real mess, because we're going to have refreezing of the liquid stuff that falls. This stuff's going to kind of pack and do things as well. All right, Bobby, let me look at that. Yep, winter storm warning did update. I'll read that here with y'all now. Starts 12 a.m., so that's the same. Snow and sleet, 3 to 6 north of I-40, 1 to 3 south of I-40, so that's about tracking where we're looking at. Ice accumulations between 2/10 and 1/2 of an inch, so still bad, but a little bit better than 3/4. I think that's what the ice storm warning counties were still looking at, but let me double check that here, as I imagine they probably reissued both of them just now. Winter storm warning was issued, yep, 10:59 p.m. Is it already? Whoa, I guess it is. Time flies when you're having fun. Let's look. Yep, so they did reissue the ice storm warning as well, so I'll read that out for our Lawrenceburg, Wayne, Lewis, Perry County folks. Significant icing expected. Ice storm warning remains in effect until 6 p.m. Sunday, so that actually is already in effect, it sounds like. Significant icing expected, 1 and 2 inches. Whoa. So total snow and sleet accumulations between 1 and 2 inches. Okay, that was right. And then ice accumulations around a 1/2 inch with locally higher amounts. So yeah, those ice storm counties down there, and I'll turn that on here in a minute as well and show y'all that overlaid on the map. It sounds like our southwestern approach there is going to catch a lot of that ice. I'm hoping we don't, folks. I'm telling you, I'm hoping we don't. But I'm still not convinced that we won't kind of at least get close to, if not meet, those ice storm criteria. So again, there's 6 p.m., 7 p.m. we start to get into maybe a little bit of the mix, sleet and freezing rain there. Kind of heavy again at times with that really dark, reddy pink there. Moving over to all sleet or all freezing rain, excuse me, around 9 or 10 p.m. Continuing off and on through midnight there. Maybe a little liquid rain in the early morning hours. Thought it was going to taper off there. So there's around daylight, 7 a.m., 8 a.m., picking back up in the pretty heavy freezing rain. And that's what this one's going to do. So it's got that vein just to our west, like Hampshire, Williamsport, Santa Fe. Y'all are kind of part in that there. And it looks like it's just going to hang there for the remainder of the day. Again, in this run. This is just but one model, folks. So a little break there around 2 p.m., so afternoon. A little more mixed precip between 3 and 4, and it looks like it's got us tapering off there about 4 p.m. Sunday. So for the fun part, let's look at our accumulations here. So total snow depth. Remember, this is what it thinks will accumulate. So about 2 inches, maybe 3 closer to the northern part of Murray County, but it looks like that's about it. So snow chances max out Sunday 4 a.m. That may be some snow and sleet. I still think some of these are probably trying to batch in the sleet with some of the snow, just because, again, this ice and the system with the warm nose and everything else going on with all the moving parts and it running behind. There's a lot of things going on there, and the models are struggling. So total freezing rain, so this is everything that it thinks will fall, not necessarily what will accrue. Whoa, where did my model go? Okay, so that's missing for some reason. I don't know why it's missing. Let's try to reload that. Okay, there we go. I don't know what's going on there. So showing ice starting to accrue there around Saturday 7 p.m. This is just the freezing rain, so no snow, no sleet, no nothing else. What is going on? Yeah, like I said, folks, this has been one of them days, so we'll see if this will work. Total ice, so this is what it thinks just should accumulate. But what is... Man, I'm telling you, it has just been one of them days. I don't know why the data's missing. That's just like the data's gone. That's crazy. All right, so no accumulation there on the NAM. Let's look at the non-HD version and see kind of how similar they are. Hey, maybe closer to 3 there. It's a little bit being more generous with the snow. Maxing out our chances about 3 to 6 a.m. And so total freezing rain. Yeah, pretty close. It's still kind of got that vein running real close to Santa Fe there. Showing worst case like inch, it goes up real quick there in some cases, inch 7-9. So that vein that we're worried about is going to be pretty close. I'm still kind of concerned with that. So more realistic totals there, about 1/4 of an inch. So that would be a lot better, but it goes up pretty quickly as we were talking about. So down here in Culleoka, it's showing a little bit closer to a 1/2 inch. Murray County's Columbia Center there has got a little bit better chance of maybe 1/4 inch, 3/10 of an inch. But once you get back up here to Santa Fe, it's still showing closer to 7/10, almost 9/10 of an inch there. So some of those locally higher totals may vary. They mean that, and it just depends on where these little hot spots end up coming through when they come. So we'll look at this again. Just same thing, just the non-HD version of the NAM, showing things starting about 5 or 6, rolling through with the sleet there not as long before transitioning over to freezing rain about 8 or 9 p.m. Saturday. Rain to start the day Sunday, maybe a little bit of heavy rain there even, and then tapering off a little earlier, so 12 to 3 p.m. Sunday is what it's saying there. So again, just ballparking these things, folks. That's why we're looking and talking about all the times and everything. just overall probabilities. I'll listen to all the models, kind of see what they have to say, and then go from there. It's one I like to use. So this is, when you see this, it's saying, 24-hour snowfall on a 10-to-1 ratio. 1 inch of rain equals 10 inches of snow. Probability, that's what this means, greater than 1 inch. So we'll slide this forward here, and it looks like we max out our snow probabilities at about 70 to 80% to get an inch Sunday midnight. So that's our maximum snow time there. Chance to get 4 inches, not even showing up anymore. So I'm thinking it's going to be about 1 to 3 tops, but if we get closer to the 3, I'll be excited. Snow depth. This one's an interesting one. So point values P10 to P90. So that's like the 10th percentile, what it thinks the basement is, and then what it thinks like more of a worst case scenario is. These are sometimes funny. That's where you come up with that 0 to 27 inches things. And it's saying about 1 to 2 for us, and that's about what we expected. Probability to see more than 1/10 of an inch of freezing rain. Been there for a while, pretty much 100%. It's fairly certain that everywhere in Middle Tennessee is gonna get some ice or some sleet or some something. So freezing rain, same thing, 10%, 90%. And that's a little bit more of the worst case scenario there. So this run, again, saying low end about 3/10. That's tracking more similar to our 1/4 inch that we got off the other model, but worst case, it's saying about 1 1/4 inches, which would be pretty darn rough. So hoping that is not the scenario that pans out there. That was the GEFS, by the way, the one of the American models. We'll have a look at the GFS. It's kind of the basis for that model. We'll look at, and we're not going to do all these. We're just going to do a couple here. Some of the ones that you've been hearing about all week, and then we're going to look at the Euro last because I'm still expecting it to be crazy. Snow starting about 6 a.m., transferring to mix about noon there, continuing on as mostly sleet until about 9 p.m. We start picking up some freezing rain, then that gets pretty heavy overnight, 3 a.m., 6 a.m., pretty heavy there again, 9 a.m. So that daytime early shift is looking pretty rough on Sunday morning on most of these models. Maybe a little bit of a break there, and has us trailing off about 3 p.m. So some of these are trying to end it sooner, between like noon and 3-ish, but we're going to go through some pretty heavy precip to get there from the look of things. So we'll have a look at the accumulation here. Snow depth. Well, yeah, I don't even want to show you all this because it's still saying, man. All I can figure, this is the post that everybody was kind of like, what? On, and it's hard to explain. So like we talked about earlier, some of the models work off snow on a 10-to-1 ratio, and sometimes it's higher than that. And really like heavy wet super snows, you can see up to like 20-to-1 ratios at times. And I think the models are still persisting. Some of them are trying to throw in our sleet, if we're getting a whole lot of it, as like a really heavy snow, and that's all I can come up with this, because it's steadily been showing 15 inches of snow, but you see our taper lines here are about the same, so tapers off pretty sharply down to almost nothing by the time you get out of Marshall County, and it's following roughly our same contours as the sleet and like the freezing rain, the ice cores. So I'm thinking that's what it's doing. That's all I can come up with, because other than that, I have no clue. So I think that's what's been plaguing some of the American models like the GEFS. Total ice, so this is what it thinks is going to accumulate there, and again, varies highly. So top of Murray County up here around Santa Fe, about maybe 1/4 of an inch. As you get further down into Columbia, maybe 8/10 of an inch. Further down towards Culleoka, Marshall County area, northern Lawrence and Giles, maybe over an inch. So it's gonna be close there, folks. I think if it misses us, it's still gonna be kind of geographically close to us. That's been kind of the going trend, and I don't see much of a reason for it to break now. So we're going to swap back over to HRRR. These are the freshest ones that have just run. I just kind of want to watch these for my own benefit here to look at the next little bit, because this one updates every hour. So I want to point this out too. So see our snow kind of here creeping in, but it's showing real light. One of the posts that we made, or I think it was a comment I made, I don't know, it's all just kind of running together on me now. Some of the really light stuff, even once we see it on the radar, may not actually all be hitting the ground. Could be called what's called virga. So it's precip that's evaporating basically before it can get to the ground. Usually that's the two things we have here with our atmospheric conditions. So usually we're really cold and really dry, which isn't conducive to snow. Or we end up getting the warm air coming in from the Gulf and messing up our cold air, and we get ice in a mix. So that's usually our two usual atmospheric condition types around here, and that's why it's so hard for us to get snow and forecast snow and it not be ice. It's just because of where we're located in the country and just kind of how things normally go. You can even get like cold air damming, what's called, with geographic features. You can see stuff kind of like almost piling up here because of the mountains and things. Happens more with the Rockies, just with the higher elevations, but it can happen here in East Tennessee as well too. So you see that kind of creeping in, and then the model just kind of takes it away and goes, nope, maybe not. Nope, just kidding. And then takes us pretty much all the way to around 7 a.m., 8 a.m. before we see that snow actually coming in. And again, folks, it may not all be hitting the ground, so just because you can see it on radar doesn't necessarily mean it's fallen. But it's got snow continuing on through about 11 or 12 a.m., so that's, I think, similar to the previous run. We'll look at it real quick and just kind of compare things. Yep, starting about 7 or 8 a.m. still. Mostly snow continuing on until about noonish, and then getting into the heavier sleet, freezing rain, picking up there about 4 p.m. or so. So these are the most recent runs. I'll not gonna keep sharing and stuff and blowing y'all up with all that because there's not as much we can do at this point other than wait and just kind of keep looking and comparing. So other than that, hold on. I'm gonna try to get into the comment section here in just a minute. There we go. Banning people from the chat. There we go. It's always YouTube. I don't know why. Anyways, got that fixed. Let me hop back over here and get us back to... There we go. All right. So, and we've already been going 45 minutes. Holy crap. So, I'm trying to get into the chats here a little bit. Men of the Joyful's running what happens if we have a couple of hours of the green at the end of the storm. It's very possible that it could kind of wash down some of the snow. The problem is most everything is going to end up refreezing overnight because we're going to get those really cold temperatures overnight. So black ice is going to be a thing in the morning, whether it's actively kind of raining or icing or not. Alina, everything should be kicking in again around daylight, somewhere between there and about 8, 9, 10 a.m. has been the trend. Matt, hopefully that answers your question about the rain melting the ice in Spring Hill, Columbia area as well. Bruce wants to know, do I think we'll get power outages? It's certainly possible. That's what we were just talking about a minute ago, Bruce. I don't know how long you've been here with us. 1/10 to a quarter is pretty annoying. You can start to have some issues with a 1/4 inch of ice, but once you get to a 1/2 inch of ice, you're kind of at more of a widespread power outage there. I'd try to usually say 50-50 between there, but once you go over that 1/2 inch going into like 3/4 of an inch, it's almost assured more widespread power outages, actual issues with the lines and not just stuff falling on them or people wrecking into them. And then anything over an inch, I can just about guarantee it, and that's going to be one of those situations where it may be out for a couple of days, or like the big main lines, like the big TVA, large, massive towers that carry the high voltage stuff. Those can start to be an issue after like an inch of ice because it's just so much weight, folks. Kim asked a great question. So what's the difference between freezing, rain, and hail? That's an outstanding question, and you reminded me to pull up one of my graphics here because I've got one that explains exactly that. Give me just a second to find it though, because I've got all of this stuff on here. And I didn't get much of a chance to do any of my prep work, folks, and I apologize there for just joining us because I had technical difficulties and it's been one of them days. All right, so there we go. So here's what we were talking about. So starting from left to right, snow falls through completely cold air, never melts. All right. So when you have a shallower layer there with the sleet that's higher up, your frozen precip, be it snow, sleet, whatever, kind of falls through that shallow warm layer and has enough time to freeze again before it gets back to the ground. Freezing rain there is when we have that warmer layer lower to the ground, or it's a deeper layer there with the cold air still at the ground. It has enough time to melt all the way through that warm layer, but it doesn't have enough time to freeze again, like into sleet or kind of solid ice pellets or anything like that. And that's where you get that freezing rain. So kind of freezes on contact. Think glazed donut versus like sprinkle donut. So sprinkles are more like sleet. That glaze is going to be your freezing rain. And then obviously when you have a warm air above 32, all the way from a decent amount all the way to the ground, you get just regular old rain. Still pulling some more of these up as I'm talking here, so just bear with me. Some of these things are easier to illustrate like that. While we're at it, we'll go ahead and talk about our prep stuff. So a few days out, day before. So you should have all your few days out stuff done. We're now in the day before. Make sure that you got your plans adjusted. If you're going to do this, if blah happens, make sure the fam knows everybody's on the same page. Make sure you've got your multiple and redundant ways to receive warnings. Make sure at least one of those is capable of waking you up. And with everything we're looking at with the ice and power outages being a possibility, I would make sure at least one of them is rechargeable or has a battery backup or something like that. And then obviously bring your pets indoors, ensure they have water. Tend to those 4 P's, people, pipes, plants, and pets. Winter safety. Difference. So one of these things that we always talk about, good to talk about, because this same naming scheme pretty much applies to everything we deal with. So what is the difference between a watch and a warning? So that means winter storm watch. We are watching out for those warned conditions. So in this case, it would be a winter storm. If it's tornado watch, we're watching out for tornadoes, so on and so forth. Means that those conditions are possible. Heavy snow, sleet, freezing rain. It means to be prepared. And obviously, once a warning is issued, anytime you hear warning, that means it is happening now or happening imminently. Winter storm warning means that heavy snow, sleet, freezing rain is expected or will be imminent. If it's tornado warning, it means that we see one on radar, one is reported, or we think it is a storm capable of producing a tornado. So at that point, you will take action. That's when you stay home, delay address those plans until conditions approve, yada, yada, so on, so forth, and etc. Think that's most of these. Think here's another one. No, that one's kind of I think that's most of the stuff. We'll go over our safety kit. So winter weather safety kits, in addition to some stuff that's kind of dual use, like your weather radio, flashlights, and stuff like that, you need some kind of specific things. So clothes, warm stuff, obviously, maybe hand warmers, prescription medicines. You want to select a supply of things like that, non-perishable food, and preferably a manual can opener. Don't want to have to stab those beans open, folks. Spare batteries, flashlights, maybe some extra money or extra clothing. It may be difficult to get to the ATM or the wherever else. And then first aid kit, some bottled water, and hygiene items never hurt anybody. Let's see, I think that is the meat and potatoes of most of what I've got on the winter weather. I've got all kind of stuff in here that we could go over, but it'll take like 11 more days. Bridges freeze first, obviously. Here we go. That's one of the things we can talk about because, again, I'm still kind of worried about this ice. So, difference between winter storm warning, weather advisory, winter storm warning. Dangerous conditions expected to be in the next 12 to 36 hours. So that's about where we are. Considerable travelable problems are expected. Don't think we'll see any blizzard warnings there or anything like that. But some main difference between a winter weather advisory and the winter storm warning. Maybe if you have like ice or snow or one or the either, you get that winter weather advisory on a lower end. But once you get all of the above and the heavier amounts, it's going to be that winter storm warning or possibly even the ice storm warning. Hoping we don't get one of those, folks, but it wouldn't surprise me if some of these model runs turn out to pan out. I think that's the most of those. So again, I'm not trying to bore y'all to death and be Fire Marshal Bill. So, trying to check through the chats. Ethan wants to know how long you want to be out of school for. I'd say Monday's a good possibility if this pans out even most of the way. If it pans out really bad all the way, brother, it could be a couple of days. Ice is probably going to be Caitlin. The snow and the stuff is probably going to start between daylight-ish and 8. Looks like the icing in most cases has it starting around 10 or 12. Most of them are before noon. Yeah, JC, ice can definitely be heavy. It's one of those things you don't necessarily think about until it's all covering your power lines. Kelsey wants to know, what are those other $1 million questions? Will kids be able to sled tomorrow? For sure. No idea. It's probably not going to be great sledding. I would get it done early while it still is snowing, because once you're out there in that freezing rain, it gets you and your clothes wet in kind of a way that's not healthy, especially if it's breezy out there. Wet clothes and exposed skin, stuff like that with the breeze can be pretty bad kind of quickly. So if you do get out there with the kiddos or the puppos and all that fun stuff, take good breaks every now and then, come in and warm up, all that fun stuff, take off any wet clothes. So almost all the same questions and stuff. Yeah, definitely glad everything, and hopefully got everything set up before tornado season, Chris, and get all the kinks worked out here. And believe it or not, tornado season is way less stressful for me. Like, this stresses me out, y'all, because I hate forecasting snow. It's really hard. It makes me question everything, and I hate it. So I like looking at it, but it's one of those things that tornadoes, believe it or not, stress me out way less than this. Bruce, yeah, those power outages could be possible in Spring Hill. I'd say that the possibility is there for widespread outages all throughout Middle Tennessee, I would say. I don't have that winter storm impact graphic up here at the moment, but it is on the page somewhere, and you can kind of get the breakdown from that as well, just kind of how wide this is. I can pull it back up here and show you the gigantic. See, it goes even farther now, so let's swap back to screen share real quick. I'll show you the countrywide version here, the pink, so stretching from pretty much New Mexico, Texas, Mexico, all the way up into almost Maine, Rhode Island, New York, Connecticut, parts of Vermont, Michigan, Upper Peninsula. So gigantically massive storm here. You see the purple here down on the legend. Ice storm warnings there throughout northern Georgia, parts of South Carolina, North Carolina, East Tennessee, just to our southwest there in Lawrence, Wayne, Perry County here. So a couple of our counties there that we try to take care of are under that ice storm warning, y'all, and I want y'all to take this doubly serious. Everybody in the peak's got a great chance to see some winter weather and some pretty decent travel impacts, but here in the purple, it's getting pretty major at that point, y'all. So definitely do your due diligence with this. Make sure you're prepared as much as you can be. And we'll just have to wait it out and see what happens. Yep, and regardless of this, thank you, Boppy. Once this system comes through, Sunday night and going into like Monday, Tuesday, it's going to be extremely cold. So outside of the wind chills, I think we're looking at almost single digits or like low teens. And if there's any wind at all there, y'all, it's going to be zero or very close to it. So definitely make sure you get all your stuff winterized and you're keeping an eye on those things as well. If you got older family, the shut-ins from church on the prayer list or whatever else, call those folks, go check on them, whatever you got to do. Take care of each other. Alita brought up a great question. So if power goes out, are phone lines and internet going down too? Yes. So even if like the physical infrastructure, your fiber optic or your internet lines coming into your house don't get damaged or taken down by a tree or something, still got to have power to power that router. Cell phones are a little bit different. The old school, if you can still find them, like what they call POTS copper or landline, plain old telephone system, those are more resilient. They carry their own power, so they don't have to have external power. If you have like voice over IP, like I don't know if they still do Vonage anymore, or like a wireless landline, like the little cell SIM card thing that just hangs on your wall, but it's actually a cell phone technically, those could go down. So most of the towers have a backup battery for a certain period of time, but that's where if we run into, over 24 hours, most of them probably aren't going to last that long. If we've got any cell phone industry folks here in the comments, because it's my knowledge there is outdated a good bit, but if any of y'all in the comment section, you know how long the battery life is, let me know. So yeah, Matt asked a great question there. So if we get the ice and then the rain, will it let the ice melt or just freeze the rain and cause more? Both eventually. If we've got that 33, 4, 5 degree Fahrenheit water from the liquid rain coming down onto the snow or ice, it could melt that. That's very possible. The ground's going to be pretty cold, so it's all going to refreeze at some point eventually, especially like on elevated surfaces like bridges, cars, stuff like that. And then for sure by the overnight hours, when we're getting into those really cold nights, it's going to refreeze, and there will probably be some black ice issues in the mornings, I would imagine. All right. Good evening, Miss Lisa. Yeah, basically, yep, not fun snow, more ice, Dustin. Yep, you got it, pretty much. Bourbon, thoughts on the winds? That is a good question. Said we were going to touch on that a minute ago, and I think I forgot. So we'll go back to the HRRR here, have a look at our 48-hour loop. Wind gusts. So let's take it down a little bit lower there so y'all can kind of see what's going on. So this will be starting 6 p.m. So it's a little while ago. Let's move it up a little bit. All right, so 10 p.m. there. Oops, one sec. There we go. Sorry, yeah. 10 p.m. there, showing around 28 mile per hour winds, potentially. Never mind, we don't want that. 6 p.m. Where are we? That's it's going too far. Hold on one second. I don't know why that's. There we go. Okay, so again, Columbia down here. We'll start about midnight. So midnight, looking could be some 20s as far as the wind goes. Tapering off there a little bit about noon Saturday, but it's going to come back in here, I think, at the end, getting back into some 20s. Gaps and breaks here. There's Sunday midnight, so we should have some calm periods, but there's gonna be some of those gusts. This isn't sustained wind. These are just wind gusts, so that's like the maximum that it picks up to here according to the model. Off and on through Sunday. Then looks like they're 9 a.m. Sunday morning, noon Sunday, and then picking back up again with a pretty good vengeance, or at least some more consistency across the board around 3 p.m. So yeah, once the Sunday temperatures kick in pretty good, and we've got those 20 mile an hour winds, maybe 25 mile an hour winds, it's definitely going to take the wind chill down. Got that right here. look at our wind chill. So this is temperature with the wind factored in. We'll start midnight. So 10 degrees tonight. It's going to be kind of chilly. 8-7, 6-5. So it looks like we bottom out at 5-degree wind chill, 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. We get out of the teens about noon. Make it to about 25, 28 there, 32. So wind chill 5 a.m. Sunday. It's that warm nose that's coming through here. You kind of see temperatures start to go up here from the south a little bit. We're dipping, kind of back and forth below the freezing there with the winds. That'll help freeze some of the surface stuff. It doesn't do as much for the stuff falling through that warm layer. But looks like back to Sunday morning around 9 a.m. We're back down below freezing with the wind chill, and then dropping through the teens there. 4 p.m. Sunday, 9 degrees, 8, 6, and then model end there at 6 p.m. Sunday with our 6-degree wind chill. So pretty chilly. You can see actually some negatives up here. So with the wind and the temperature both combined, it's going to be rather chilly, folks. No matter what happens, that part we are almost pretty well positive on that. So okay, so I see what you're saying, Janelle. I think you might have, if you just joined us, you may have missed my graphic a second ago. Let me pull that up. So I was asking again about the freezing rain versus the rain. A lot of these graphics too that I'm sharing on here are on the page too. Also, if you want to review any of this or back it up, rewind it, they're in the middle. So that's how that's happening. We have that warm air layer in effect there, where it's got not enough time to refreeze before it hits the surface, more like sleet or snow, and then freezing rain actually is going to freeze on contact once it reaches the surface. So that's kind of how some of the science magic trickery is going on there. Marlies, yeah, Lewisburg is looking about the same as far as the snow and the ice goes. Generally, y'all may have a little bit easier time of it if that vein comes more this way or stays farther west of y'all. But that's the general, I'd say, model consensus at the moment. Grant, so yeah, when we're talking about wintry mix, that could be a bunch of different things. So that could be ice in the sense of, like ice pellets or sleet or freezing rain. The wintry mix is just basically more than one precip type at the same time. So if it's snowing and raining, that's a wintry mix or snow shower. If it's sleeting and freezing raining, wintry mix. That's kind of how that goes. So pretty much just more than one thing happening from our Tennessee weather at once. Kaylee, Williamsport area is going to be one of those tricky ones. So those veins and kind of heavier areas of ice accumulation that we've been talking about have been trying to trend pretty close to western Murray County and Murray County as a whole in general. I'd say the farther west you go towards those ice storm warned counties like Lewis, you're going to have a lot better chance to see the ice because it's not missing us east, so if it doesn't kind of come directly more so over Murray County, it's looking like it will hang a little bit more to the west. And being in western Murray County there, y'all may have more ice than I do, say, in central Murray County in southern Columbia. Tim, too far out on the storms. There is a little signal of something else trying to show up, but I'm only going to try to throw so much at y'all at one time. So there is some stuff going on, I think, near end of the month, beginning of February, but we'll still be kind of watching and waiting on that. It doesn't look anywhere near as big of a signal as this, though. So I did the iPhone satellite thing, Krista, when it was still under beta, so it was still under testing. I haven't done it like for real since. Know how it works, and that's about it. So Heidi wants to know if anybody knows if we do lose power or cell, is there any way to get updates? NOAA Weather Radio will get you the basic forecast. Hopefully we don't lose cell because they do have a little bit of backup there, but if you do, hopefully your power stays on. Maybe you can still get Wi-Fi some other way. If not, whip out the old school radio. TV, sometimes they have, the newer ones have built-in antennas and you can still pick up like the Nashville channels over the digital waves. And as far as like when it gets restored, I couldn't tell you. If you live in Columbia, you can go to Columbia Power's website and they have a live outage tracker that we show a lot here on the stream. I'll pull it up real quick and show you what that looks like while we're at it. Here we go. So I'll swap back to screen share real quick, and I promise we're going to wrap it up because I know y'all want to go, and boy, I'm tired too. I need a nap. So Columbia Power Water District limits there, so you kind of see a little bit of area down here towards Mount Pleasant, Columbia itself going out towards Williams Pike, and then parts of Spring Hill. So if we start to see any outages, they'll show up there. We can see we're on the map, if it's affecting a whole neighborhood or maybe just a couple of houses, and we'll keep an eye on that among other things as we go throughout this. And obviously I'll share any big relevant updates with y'all as far as that goes. Jacob, great question. So with the state of emergency, could they enforce a drive ban if the weather gets too dangerous? I think technically they could, but they're not gonna. So that's one of those things. It's that falls squarely within the just because you can doesn't mean you should. I think as far as that goes with law enforcement, there's a lot of those litmus tests applied to that, I think. So I would highly doubt it anyway. Yep, Jamie, I'm pretty sure we will not be going Monday either. Maybe Tuesday, but as far as I know, the head shed's supposed to have a powwow, I think between about 01 and 0400, I think, Sunday. All right, cool. Marlies, yeah, I'll probably be on tomorrow. I imagine once this starts coming through, I will be at the weather desk anyway. Maybe one of those days where we play around with a little NOAA audio in the background while we just do a radar loop. I'll try to be in and out because I'm going to be possibly doing the Mr. Mom thing as well, with Miss C's job and responsibilities and everything that she's got going on there. We've got to play some things like that by ear and just kind of roll with the punches. So I will more than likely, I'd say almost assuredly be on. I just may be in and out and doing some other things throughout the day tomorrow as well. All right, if you got any other questions, comments, concerns, spontaneous utterances, admissions of guilt, throw those in the comments now. I'm looking at Facebook and YouTube here, so I'm making sure I'm watching everybody. And trying to catch everything. I think we got it, though, so if you do have anything else, throw it in there. Should be wrapping up here in just a minute, because I think we're like over an hour now. Yeah, hour and 11 minutes, way too long. So it's gonna hopefully keep this at like 30 minutes or less, and that didn't work out really well. So no idea as far as how long the power might be out. We can only kind of go through like the probabilities of with the ice accumulation. You really start to have issues anywhere, above like a half inch there. It's getting a lot more likely, and then anywhere half inch to an inch, it's pretty much assured. And then inch above, those are your day long, week long outages. Those are bad. So we don't want to get any ice, but we really don't want to get much over a quarter of an inch, because that's when your problems start, other than just slick roads and busted booties on stairs. What's the best prep you can do to your houses? That one, I do have one here. One second. Here we go. Oh man, I remember what we were doing now, because the high risk graphic just popped up. So I guess that's what we were doing on May. It's the last thing I had loaded in here. Winter weather. Winterizing your home. So one sec. There we go. So a couple different things you can do. Insulate your attic, get your chimney inspected. I had both of those done recently here, unfortunately. Clean out gutters. Didn't do that one, but I've got gutter guards. Caulk and weather strip windows and doors. If you have an issue where you lose power, you can always grab some clear plastic sheeting, like a painter's drop cloth. Still lets the sunlight in, but can kind of help insulate some of that cold if you have some older windows or drafty windows or anything like that. Any exposed pipes, if you've got those water spigots out front, they make little covers. You can just slide right over those pretty easily. anything else you can wrap with the insulation, or they have tape that you can do that. Test smoke alarms, carbon monoxide detectors. Just picked one of those up today in case we do have to use our fireplace, because that's just going to honestly let me sleep a whole lot better at night. You can see the smoke, smell it, all that fun stuff, but CO will get you. And it pretty much just makes you kind of feel bad until you pass out, and pass out until you die. So it's one of those things, folks, you don't want to play with. So no generators within 25 feet, I think it is. No cars running if you've got snow or ice, which we're not getting to that point, but don't let it pile up around your vehicle and occlude your tailpipe. Stuff like that. No burners, any kind of thing burning, pretty much anything organic, fuel-wise, wood-wise. Any of that stuff can produce CO, and you don't want to go there. So, and then lastly there, get your supplies. Make sure you have all of that stuff good to go. Check on your people, and that fun jazz. Kim wants to know which better, a solar weather ready or a hand crank one. About the same. Only problem I guess that you would run into there, pro con wise, solar won't charge really much on cloudy, and I guess if your hand gets really tired, it won't want to crank when it's sunny, I guess, or something like that. So about the same either way. Grab one of each. That way you got all your bases covered, I guess. Cynthia, you are very welcome. I'm not traveling anywhere. I'm off all weekend, and probably going to be Monday, I think, as well. We were discussing that before we left. So, Boppy eating pizza tonight. Good cheat day. I say you don't have to argue that one hard with anybody, Boppy. I wish I had some myself. Kind of getting hungry, so I'm going to have to figure that out too. Thank you for your vote of confidence, Jamie. Appreciate that. Yeah, you did forget to give me the faucet covers, Bobby, but it's all right. I've got some around here somewhere, and I think our front one is covered up anyway, I think. Kaylee, I hope I'm not butchering your name there. If I am, apologize. Wants to know, should I go to work tomorrow 7:30 through 30 Foodland? Can't tell you that, unfortunately. That's one of those things that everybody's got to decide for themselves. I can kind of give you the, hey, you know, this is what you can expect maybe at 7 to 3:30 on your way to or from. It's not going to be anything nice or fun to drive in. We can go ahead and throw that part out there and know that pretty much for sure. But that's one of those real subjective things, or asking, you know, hey, will the storm get bad, or will the roads be bad? Well, it's, you know, bad's kind of subjective. Things don't get bad to me, basically, until we're like under a high risk and like cows are floating around in the air. So I try to always word it that way just because it's different for everybody. If you have some serious doubts and reservations about you can make it, or if you get halfway out of your subdivision neighborhood or down your road and you go, nope, listen to that feeling. That's the best advice I can give you there. So other than that, your boss will be calling and yelling at me. I've tried to write people notes before for tornado outbreaks, and apparently my signature on a piece of paper doesn't do anything for anybody. But I mean, I'll still try if you want me to. Just tell them Captain said so. Starting time, Jessica, you're good. Probably best guess dawn to 8, but pretty surely between 10 and 12, and probably the changeover sometimes after 12. So that's the best guess right now for the start time. All right, folks, I think that is about it. I'll try to keep an eye on some of the chat stuff after this ends for a little bit. Never did look at our poll. I hope y'all voted in my poll. What do we got? Let me see the results, y'all. Nobody voted in my poll? I did activate it. Why is it not? Oh, well, I don't know why it popped up. It popped up on mine. Did y'all not see my poll? My feelings are hurt now. It should show up hopefully during the replay then. So the question was originally, what do you think Murray County would get more of? Snow, sleet, ice, or rain? I've still got it active, so y'all definitely go vote on my poll, man. Let me know what y'all think. So other than that, I think that's about all I've got. we'll see again just kind of how as things go. That's about all we can do at this point. The models are only so good. We're pretty close now until we can start watching things on radar as it's approaching from out in the rest of the country on its way in, and we'll see. Let me see, where do we let me vote? I think I voted. Maybe it's not showing results for some reason on my end. That's weird. Okay, I tried. Anyway, maybe to let y'all once the video's over. Other than that, folks, that's all I've got. Y'all stay frosty, stay tuned, stay warm, and we will see y'all on the other side. This has been the Weather Down in Muletown. Like, share, follow, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Semper Ades, Semper Paratus means always ready, always present. Y'all stay warm.